Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Kyle Shank.
Mr. Vice President, I note for the record that we were in executive session with regard to litigation from 7:30 to, from 7 o'clock to approximately 7:32.
Thank you. For council consideration, adoption of the meeting minutes from January 25th.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a first and a second for Mr. Fee and Ms. Funahashi. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of meeting minutes from February 8th, 2022.
I'll make
I'll
the
make-
motion.
I'll second.
Adoption made by Mr. Scott, second by Ms. Nolan. Any questions? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Mr. Manager, you can go ahead.
Very good. Good evening, everybody. First up, for council consideration, Resolution 2022-015, setting an official policy for audio and video recordings. Members of council, members of the audience, this is merely a formal acknowledgement and adoption of a rather routine policy, just to formally acknowledge and make the public aware that beginning January 1st, 2022, subsequent to our audiovisual upgrades to council chambers, that meetings are now recorded, both video and audio, and disseminated or published through our website and social media accounts.
Great. This has been discussed multiple times, and I'm happy we're moving forward. Is there a motion to do this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second by Ms. Funahashi. Are there any other comments from council? From the public? Okay, all those in... You can step in, say your name and address.
It's on. Bob DeMorad, 602 Ford Street. I was just wondering, is this the only microphone that is for the public?
No, Mr. DeMurad, there is another wireless microphone, identical to the one that you see sitting here, in front of Ms. Long, that is on back order. Additionally, the audio recorder, right now, we only have the video recorder installed. The audio recorder is also on back order, which is why if you're watching at home, you're not hearing the ambient noise. You know, for example, when we have the oaths and whatnot, the only thing that's recording audio right now is the backup audio to the video component. So both items are on back order. I'm hoping that in the next month that they're in, so you folks, the residents, will have another wireless mic at the podium, and ambient noise will also be recorded and broadcast with the rest of the meeting, sir.
Okay, so the system's not finished yet, so they're going to come in and they're going to still have some things to do for the system.
Yes.
When they come in to add on to the system, will there be any type of, say, kill switch for these microphones out here by anyone up here from left to right, in case someone was liable to be swearing or something like that? And if that's the case, would there be some type of kill switch up here so that you can stop the audio?
The kill switch is on the touch screen panel behind me, sir.
Okay, so if that were to happen, and then who takes care of the video that goes on the Bridgeport PA page? Who puts the video on the page?
That's me, Bob.
Okay, so if something were to happen like that, where somebody was perturbed and they came up here swearing like crazy, and would you edit the video? You would edit that out or bleep it, or what would you do?
I think that's a really good question, Mr. Demurad, and
Well, I would,
God forbid we never have to go across that bridge, but you know,
you have to.
not
you have to
sh-
plan for that. That's going to happen.
We do, and I tell you what, I will have a comprehensive and cogent response for you by next meeting.
All right, because I'm saying, if that were to happen, would everything that person were to say be turned off? Because basically, whatever that person would be saying, he was up there or she was up there for a reason, and the rest of whatever that person had to say should be heard.
I think we're going to make it, we're going to try our best to put in
We're
everything.
going to have a policy that's going to be public so that people know when they come up here what is and what isn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need a policy for that. I think people understand that the decorum in this room is supposed to be at a higher level.
Some people may not know
Let
that.
me finish. And anybody who doesn't do that is going to have to wait to see what the results of this council's decision would be. It's not something we're going to broadcast. It's not something we're going to predict. It's not something that we're going to discuss further. It's something that if the situation presents itself, we will address it. But our position is, if you break decorum in this room, there's a gentleman over there with a badge, and we will ask him to escort you out of the room, and whoever it may be who can't behave themselves, and then we'll go from there, and we'll make an intelligent decision on how the video is used.
All right, so I'll be expecting some type of information later meetings about the system and about what you come up with.
I told you I'd give you an answer, and I'll stick to that, Bob. Absolutely.
All right.
I assume no other comments from anybody. That said, motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, next up for council consideration, Traffic and Parking Subcommittee recommendation regarding a disabled parking space request. Address in question is 30 West 6th Street. Members of council, in your packets, you will find an info packet and a memorandum regarding this application, this disabled parking space application. And the Traffic and Parking Subcommittee have recommended that council approve the application or request for disabled parking at 30 West 6th. Yeah, so please consider approving. Thank you.
And as per the packet, this is at the same time another spot that was near that place is no longer being used as a disabled parking space, correct? So this is actually filling a need that is gone.
Yes, Vice President Heil, there was recently a disabled space that was removed from that block because the original applicant, as is procedure, when we're notified that the applicant who had requested the space is no longer living at that, no longer living at that address, we remove them. So unfortunately, things didn't line up as perfectly as they could have if we had been able to receive this packet prior to removal. We might have been able to just simply ask the applicant to utilize the pre-existing space, but it was removed just about the time we received this packet. So if council were to approve this application, we would go out there in the next week or so and reinstall a space in front of 30 West 6th.
All right, there is something to consider here. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the space and follow the recommendation of the subcommittee.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second by Ms. Gundrum. Any questions from council? Any questions from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, for council consideration, Resolution 2022-16, authorizing the purchase of a 2022 Ford Hybrid all-wheel drive police interceptor, from New Holland Auto through the PA CoStarz purchasing program at a cost of $41,070.
Does the cost include all outfitting and everything, painting that involves this?
It does not, Mr. Scott. I would defer to Chief Beretta with regard to. I don't believe we have a final number on what the upfitting is going to cost. Generally, it is in the $10,000 vicinity. I know that when we last purchased a vehicle in 2020, we were able to keep the purchase plus the upfitting under the $50,000 threshold. That is still our goal. However, given the surge in cost of materials and cost of service and labor we've experienced in the last year or two, it may somewhat exceed $50,000 total.
But a few like $1,000 exceeding is different than a $10,000 or $15,000 exceeding.
No, correct, and furthermore, when we do have the final cost estimate for the upfitting, we will bring that purchase to council for consideration as well.
Still need a motion to proceed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second by Ms. Nolan. Any other questions from council or the public? Great. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. And just a footnote on the CoStarz program. The PA CoStarz program is a cooperative purchasing agreement through the state of Pennsylvania, the Department of Governmental Services, where Harrisburg basically goes out and solicits for vendors and bids for a litany of different materials and services, thereby ensuring the best fair market value for a host of different, again, materials, goods, and services. So as Borough and Township Code is stipulated in the state of Pennsylvania, rather than going through the what can be a cumbersome process of bidding out and sometimes cost prohibitive process of bidding out and soliciting for bids for a vehicle of this nature, you can, as an alternative, circumvent that by going through the CoStarz program, which effectively guarantees you as competitive price as you're going to get on a vehicle of this nature or whatever purchase or contract you may be looking for. So.
Can I just add to that I did my own personal research, and I can confirm there was no price that was close to what's here.
Thank you, Mayor Jexer. That's correct. Right, and next up, or finally, I should say, for council consideration, authorization to pay bills and salaries for the month of February 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Nolan, second by Ms. Funahashi. Any questions from council? Hope none. Anyone from the public? Better not. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes 6-0.
Thank you all. That concludes the manager's report portion of tonight's proceedings. And with that, we can move on to unfinished business. Are there any members of council with unfinished business to discuss this evening? Seeing none, we can proceed to committee reports. Are there any committee reports to share?
Can I ask, Ms. Nolan, you did the tree walking with your group? How did that go?
Well, it's not June yet, so it went great.
Sorry, I thought you said you were doing it last. I remember you doing it, and I was really excited for it, but I thought that you had already started with something like that. I'm sorry.
No, although I guess this probably would have been a nice weekend to go out and do it since the weather was so nice. But no, we are planning on doing our tree walk in June.
We did meet last week, and we have many exciting plans coming up for this year, so stay posted.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Funahashi and Ms. Nolan. Moving on to the mayor's report. Mayor Jaxier.
Good evening, everyone. Just got a few things for tonight about everything that I've been working on the past couple weeks since last meeting. The first, I'll call it a fun thing. The mayors of Conshohocken and West Conshohocken and myself, we declared a Battle of the Bridges pizza competition. Just a fun little, I don't know, it's a live stream of a taste testing of some local pizzerias from each borough, so it's very feel good and making great connections, and also supporting local businesses. We're going to be doing this on Saturday, March 19th at 3 p.m. Not sure where yet, but I am taking recommendations of which pizza to put up for the competition. I've had a lot of fun recommendations so far, but I would love some more recommendations. So there is that happening. This was a very business promotion time for me. I visited the Panaderia and Pasteleria Mexican-style bakery at 520 Dekalb Street, which is wonderful. I went to Reach, indoor climbing and fitness, and also the Rib House, which is everyone's favorite. I had wonderful experiences at all of them, and I've been encouraging everyone to visit and support them if possible, as I will continue to do. And finally, I hosted my office hours for this month in my office downstairs this past Saturday. And yet again, I was able to meet with some residents to discuss happenings around town. And my goal is to try to host office hours like this about once per month, so please stay tuned for next month's. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jaxier. And moving on to the chief's report. Chief Beretta.
Good evening, everyone. So as you might have seen on the signboard we had out front, that there's going to be some Penndot modifications on Dekalb Street, both north and southbound lanes. Initially, we thought it was going to be the 13th through the 17th, and that was incorrect. They had an initial modification during that time period, but the rest of the modifications are going to run into September. So if you have or haven't driven down that roadway, there's concrete Jersey barriers in portions of it. There's signage, but it definitely does bound up traffic in the area of Second and Front Streets both ways. So please be cautious when you're traveling down to Dekalb Street, both night and day. We're continuing with our patrol-based DNA training and capture in the police department. So we'll have our next Bodie DNA training tomorrow night. We're training our police officers to capture that kind of evidence from crime scenes. Not everyone's a detective. Not everyone does for fingerprints and does all kinds of different things. But the proper use to capture DNA is the 21st century. That's what we should be doing. That's what we're doing. So thanks again for the for council for putting that in our capital project and our capital budget. So we're proceeding on that. Again, with the vehicle, we got a hybrid electric vehicle, the last vehicle, and it surprised people with the torque. As a car guy that likes V8s and everything else, I was surprised how much torque those cars have. So it's performed well, better than some of the vehicles that I would expected to perform well.
I was going to say it's far more reliable than some of our other fleet members.
Far more. So I was very disappointed in another vehicle, but this one, they provide, Ford actually made a good platform. Hopefully it'll continue to be a great platform for us in the future, but I was surprised that it was turned out that well. Our most recent part-time hires, Matthew Stead and Trevor Neckel, are in field training, and we had a visit from Jeanette Bailey, who just is opening up, I guess, next month, Junebug's Sweet Treats, 600 block at Dekalb Street. So She's from Antigua. She was in New York City. She had a bakery there, and she's coming to Bridgeport. So tasted her wares. It's pretty good. I think you guys will be really excited to have another new business. She specializes in breads. That's what I have for you tonight. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chief. Moving forward to a new business. Are there any members of council with new business to discuss this evening? Moving on to open forum and announcements. Any announcements for tonight? Very well. Public comment. Are there any members of the public that wish to come forward and speak? Yes, you, sir. Please come up to the podium and be sure to state your name and your address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. My name's David Panuski. I'm one of the owners of 403 Rambo, P-N-I-E-W-S-K-I. And recently received a letter from Mr. Keith, and I spoke with Mr. Keith on the phone, and he advised me to come to the council meeting tonight. And this is about the right-of-way on Rambo Street. You guys are familiar with that? There's a 4-foot right-of-way like behind the Rambo Street homes, and when I was a kid, I used to play back in there. Okay, just see if you can picture this: red brick, curb going up the side, nice set of steps, right? Play back there now with my Hot Wheel cars, right? Well, it's nothing like it was back then, ever since this redevelopment project on 442 Prospect Avenue happened. And I don't know, it's been a while, but I've come down when that project was going on, and I complained about the right-of-way. And I was told that this right-of-way would be, you have nothing to worry about. We're going to put it back just the way it was. Okay, now from this letter, it's become a liability for the borough. Okay, and I can see why it's a liability, because it's a mess. Okay, needless to say, it's been graded off for the benefit of the Prospect project. It's not flat anymore. The red brick is gone. The curbing's gone. There's an EP Henry wall there that you can fall off and get hurt. There's a telephone pole there with power running up it that you can stand on the steps and touch the telephone pole, which I don't know why it was there. It should have been out by the curb with the rest of them. But needless to say, I understand by this letter, it's become a liability. Now, this right-of-way has been there for over 100 years, fellas and ladies, and it was never a liability before. Okay, but now it's a liability. Now, why has it become a liability? I mean, it says the borough owns this right away. I mean, did someone like drop the ball, or nobody watched the project? Or I understand when you do building in Bridgeport, you got to put money in escrow, and the borough holds that money until this project is complete and signed off on. But I came down and complained, and 2 weeks later, somebody came by and threw 2 buckets of gravel in a deep spot back in there, and that was it. And that's how the project was. That was the fix. Now, like I said, it says here that you guys are going to demo the steps that are out there, and the steps are falling down because the builder tore that one side of the wall down. Now it's all undermined, and the steps are falling down. Now, we need the right-of-way. I mean, my property's in the middle of 3 homes, and we need the right-of-way. And I see I'm the only one here complaining, but the other people on Rambo Street, they just don't know it yet, but they need the right-of-way too, okay?
For what purpose?
Well, I mean, we have to repair our homes. These homes are masonry. I mean, my stucco's gonna need to be addressed in the years coming up. I mean, there's some cracks in it. It's gonna have to be addressed. I mean, you know, stucco, you need sand, lime, and cement. How are you going to get that in there without a right-of-way? I mean, what am I going to knock on my neighbor's door and say, hey, man, you mind if my contractor comes across your lawn? He's not going to be happy about that. I mean, the right-of-way is there to keep the peace with the neighbors.
I don't know that the right-of-way was there for that purpose, but I'll defer to you. You do realize there's a lot of properties in Bridgeport that have no access to the front. That's very common here in Bridgeport. So with regard to whether the borough should maintain it, my understanding is that the borough manager reached out to those 6 homes and to see if you guys wanted to take over the right-of-way.
Well, with the liability problems there, I can't see, I'm not going to assume the liability of that.
Right.
With that high voltage power on that pole and that EP Henry wall there, you can fall off and get killed. And I know that EP Henry wall is not supposed to be part of that right away, but when someone gets hurt, someone gets killed, all parties involved get sued, not just.
And I think that's the issue for the borough.
That's the issue
Yeah.
for us too.
What's the interest does the borough have in maintaining that property? You said you need access to the rear of your property. There's numerous, frankly, the majority of buildings in Bridgeport don't have access to the rear of the property. So you're asking the borough to take on that liability for that 6 homes.
But I know, sir, but it's been that way for over 100 years.
And I respect that. Why does it have to continue?
Well, it's deeded right away. I mean,
And the borough's not taking it away. The borough's talking about taking the steps away and grading it.
right.
So
So it's still going to be right away?
it's still going to be a right-of-way unless we abandon it.
What does that mean?
If we abandon it, then it would go to 50-50 to each of the adjoining property owners.
So that we can fence it off?
You could fence off your half, theoretically.
What do you mean by half?
If there's if
Up the middle is a 4 foot wide, and you're going to fence off 2 foot of it? Now, here's another.
you talked about putting a fence on, I didn't.
I know. I'm just rattling on. I'm not fencing anything off. But here's another thing. Now you got this 442 Prospect. What are they going to do to maintain their house? I mean, you guys didn't even leave a little buffer zone in there for them to. They got to go up and fix scaffolding or a piece of siding or something. They're going to set scaffolding up on borough property and go up and fix it? I mean, you guys.
Well, but under your request, you want the borough to maintain the property. You want it on borough property, the scaffolding, you just want it nicer borough
No,
property.
I'm not going to be putting scaffolding on the property.
Right.
But
But you're asking about scaffolding on the property being borough's property. You're asking us to keep the property and make it nice, improve it. You are.
well, I'm here just voicing my concern about why was it ever touched or why was it ever damaged or disturbed? That's
Yeah, and that's a legitimate question. I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah.
All I know is that here's where we are today, and we have some steps that are in extreme disrepair.
I used DPAC access many times. And
Right.
when I came down to complain while this project was going on, they had the porta potty in front of the steps, and the access was blocked. And I came down and complained about it, but nothing was done. And I complained about the red brick being all ripped up, and nothing was done. And like I said, I mean, I'm sure this is all new council, like none of you guys were here when this was going
Yeah,
on.
what year are we talking about?
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just going to guess 8 years ago, 10 years ago maybe, when that project happened. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I couldn't get rushed out of the building fast enough when I came down and complained. I mean, don't worry about that. It's no problem. We're going to take care of it. But nothing was, like I said, like 2 weeks later, they threw 2 5-gallon buckets of gravel in there in a low spot in front of that EP Henry wall, and that was it. You know, and the steps are falling down. The steps are falling down because they tore that side of that wall down there, and now it's all undermined over there. You know, and you see the telephone poles right there. It's got high voltage on that pole. I mean, you could stand on the steps and lean on that pole like this. You know, and I just don't understand why was it not being?
I mean, the telephone pole, you can lean on any telephone pole, unless it's in disrepair. It's not an issue.
But, okay, that's not part of the liability?
What's that?
It's not a liability?
It's a liability for us and for PICO as every telephone pole in the borough is. I don't see the distinction is what I'm saying.
Oh, well, I just didn't understand why they put it there.
And I certainly have no idea about that.
Yeah, it's like, has anybody ever been out to this, is the building inspector on the council today?
No, Mr. Panuski. I mean, I've been out there a multitude of times, and as has our engineer. I think, listen, and as I said to you on the phone, I completely understand your perspective on this. like, I think what Mr. Bello was trying to say is I don't know that we necessarily view the utility pole or the fact that you can lean against it being a liability because you can walk down the street and lean against any utility pole. But you do raise a valid point, and that's our primary concern as well, that, heaven forbid a man, woman, or child takes a tumble off the top and falls off the top of that E.P. Henry pole or wall. Now, and just another point of clarity, the E.P. Henry wall is not on the right-of-way as far as our analysis has dictated. That's the property line, and the that 4-foot swath of land is the right of way itself. So, but to that end, we identified the fact that there is a clear and present possibility of danger and liability, and while we could have just summarily proceeded with saying, you know what, this is a danger, these are undermined steps that need to be demolished, we wanted to offer this compromise, this option B, where the residents could potentially engage in an easement agreement to maintain and continue to maintain and use and operate that right-of-way, or that easement, or excuse me, that right-of-way, as an alternative before we proceeded with demoing the steps, because just in the, I guess in the effort of sportsmanship and trying to provide two different alternatives and not just shove the worst case scenario upon everybody.
I mean, the borough wasn't asking for any compensation for that. They were going to give it to the neighbors, deed it over to the neighbors. So
Can you see why it would be difficult for us to spend money on something that doesn't benefit the whole borough, like just 6 houses? Like, I don't see why we would have to maintain something like that.
When the people on Ramos Street didn't damage, I'm going to use the word damage because to me it was damaged. You know what I mean? When this redevelopment project was done, and I just can't believe that nobody kind of like didn't come out and look at this and say, well, that's not the way it was. I mean, hey, you got to put this back the way it was before you touched it. You know what I mean? And I know it's after the fact, but like I said, I came down and complained, and like I said, they rushed me out of the building down here. And I mean, I'm just one little small guy. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I came down to complain while that project was running, and like I said, they pushed a porta potty in front of the steps, so I guess nobody would see it. You know what I mean? Sometimes we used to take the trash out that way, out the back, and put it on Prospect Street instead of out in front. And we couldn't do that. I mean, hey, like I said, when that project was going on, I complained, but I just can't believe that nothing was ever done, and now it's become this.
Well, I respectfully disagree with you in that the property is there, it's our property, we're choosing to abandon it or grade it. You're asking us to upgrade it. And I respect why you would want us to upgrade it and assume the liability. But from the borough's perspective, we don't want the liability, and we don't necessarily want the land. You guys have a value in the land. The borough, in an unbelievable gesture, said, here, you guys work it out. We'll give it to you. Work it out with your neighbors, how you want to divide this up and how you want it placed in your deed. You're coming in and saying, well, I hear you, Mr. Bello, but I want you to do it instead. I understand why you'd want that.
It's a liability for you, but why wouldn't it be a liability for me?
If you're using it, all your property is a liability for you. This is just an additional liability for you. We're not using it. So why would we want a liability for something we're not using? That's the distinction. You understandably want that piece of property. You want that access.
Well, we need access, right? We need access if there's a fire. We have to get out. We can't jump over a fence. Right?
Well, in Bridgeport, there's a lot of fences you would have to jump over in the case of a fire. I mean, that's the reality. So I don't know that that's the best example. However, if someone were to say to me, I'm going to give you access, you can have this piece of real estate. It's not going to cost you anything. It's going to improve your property. It's going to improve your neighbor's property. It's going to give you all the access you need. I wouldn't be saying to them, you fix it. I'd be saying, thank you.
people on Rainbow Street didn't damage it to fix it. But now I know it needs to be fixed.
But it's not yours.
I know.
The borough was allowing you to use it all this time, right? So now it's in disrepair. The borough has the liability. The borough has to either improve it or do away with it. Since we're not using it, we have no incentive to improve it. But in a gesture of community, we've said, look, we'll give it to you. You're using it. You assume the liability.
Well, that's a hard pill to swallow, I feel, because of the way it's been left.
I don't think you and I are going to agree on this tonight. I welcome you to give me a call. We can talk about it further. But I think the horse is almost dead.
Well, I mean, like I said, you guys make the decisions, right? So I understand that. That's why I came down to kind of voice my concern about what it is and what it was and what it used to be. And like I said, I just don't know why it was touched or damaged or disturbed. Because if it wasn't disturbed, the liability wouldn't be there. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate you bringing the concern to us, and I know that Mr. Bello and Mr. Truman are happy to discuss, because at some point it becomes a personal matter or between residents as well. So you're welcome to continue the conversation if need be. But I know that, like Mr. Bello said, we have made accommodations in certain ways, but we understand where you're coming from.
Okay. And like I said, I mean, everybody made money off that project. The builder, the owner, the borough made money off the permits. I mean, you guys are getting four revenues off taxes off that property, that redevelopment property. You know what I mean? Instead of one.
It was 10 years ago.
Taxes go up. I understand. But hey, at least
Not in 6 years.
Have you spoken to your neighbors?
Taxes haven't gone up in quite some time, Mr. Panuski. I just want to remind you of that. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I said 6 years, 9 years.
With that property added.
We appreciate
Thank you. We're always here to listen and try and have a conversation.
I didn't want to come and turn this thing into an argument with anyone. It's just that I wanted to voice my concern, and like I said, I don't know what else to do with it.
Well,
I think your best bet is to join with your neighbors and maintain that piece together, and everybody can use it. It can look better. Just work together and take care of it.
I mean, I'm not. I don't know if you don't know. The people on the end don't need access.
Yeah, these neighbor disputes happen all the time, unfortunately or fortunately. Sometimes they're able to work together, but again, at that point, you're welcome to continue the conversation with Mr. Truman and Mr. Bello if need be to see if there's other resolution.
Okay, thanks, guys. Like I said, I
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming, Mr. Panuski. Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing no further public comment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second? Sorry, I'm so used to you making it. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Ms. Nolan, second by Mr. Fee. I'm sure there's no questions.